Hi, it's Amy, and I'm back. And today, what I really want to talk about is reading and books. Reading is one of my favorite things to do, reading and creating things. Um, Both have something similar about them for me, and then something that's just a little bit different between the two activities. If I'm just sitting and, say, watching TV or watching a movie or just trying to relax, just sitting quietly, unless I'm actively in meditation or, um, some sort of like really focused mind work, I overthink everything. Every damn thing, I can overthink it. Um, So it's hard for me to relax because if I'm watching a movie and my brain is over here overthinking shit, it's like things are tense. I'm not really relaxed. So when I think I'm relaxing, really it's like my body's not relaxed and my brain certainly is not relaxed. So I tend not to watch a ton of TV. Sometimes I'll put it on as background noise, but to really just sit and watch something is few and far between. I do love going to the movie theater, though. That I'm fine because it's an experience. But just being at home, not my thing. So I read a lot, and what reading does for me is it allows my body to relax and it gives my brain something to focus on. So my brain is busy over here reading, and my body is just relaxed, and there's nothing making me feel tense or stressed or anxious or any of that, and I can really relax. The tricky part is if I read at night, it puts me to sleep, which is great because it helps me to fall asleep, but I don't read as much as I'd like. At night, so I try to find time during the day to read, and that's easier some days than others. The other thing I do is I'll do something creative. So making something, painting, coloring. I do a lot of coloring. And when I'm doing something creative, my brain is working creatively. So it's not just overthinking things or being destructive or negative. It's actually being creative about ideas and thoughts and problem solving and things like that. So it like compounds my creative brain when I'm doing something creative. And lately I've been coloring a lot. So if you don't have a coloring book, I highly recommend it. It's just a really great way to unwind at the end of the day. You can, still have the TV on or like music going and just coloring. I love it. My current coloring book is this tarot coloring book. It's really fun. So I mentioned yesterday that I pull cards every morning. And what I've been doing is pulling cards and then coloring the page that the card goes with. And the pictures are adorable. And I just use colored pencils, and it's been a really great outlet for me. So, highly recommend the coloring. But back to reading. So, reading is one of my favorite things to do, and buying books is another favorite thing of mine to do. So, I have books piled up everywhere. You can see many of them behind me. I'm constantly running out of space. But I love having books, and I love going to bookstores, especially in other countries or in other states, especially if it's like a local bookstore. I love bookstores. And sometimes I buy books that I'm not intending to read right away. So it's like my intuition is like, you need that book, but not necessarily to read right now. And I could have a book for years, and then suddenly my intuition is like, you got to read that. And I'll know it's time to read that book. And it's always the perfect book for whatever I'm going through. And it just works that way. So that's my cycle. I have all these books, and then my intuition tells me when to read them. And sometimes I'll buy a book and read it right away, but chances are I'm collecting because I'm going to need it at some point. So I looked at what I read in 2024, and I read 15 books in 2024, which, is just over one a month. It's not that exciting, but some of them were long. And I was like, I deserve more credit for these longer books. Like, I read Wicked in 2024, and that's like almost 500 pages. So, and if you haven't read Wicked, because the movie came out in November, the movie is fantastic. You have to see it. You can even stream it on Prime now, and it's really well done. And I love the story in the movie. It's fun, and like there's the musical component, and it's just the acting is really good. It's good. The book is a lot darker. I mean, this shit is whack. I'm telling you. I'm actually right now reading Son of a Witch, which is the second book in the Wicked series, and like that's dark too. Really, really good and just really interesting, but it's dark. So if you do read it, just know. So I added up all the pages for these 15 books that I read in 2024, and it was 4,553 pages. And that to me felt like an accomplishment. I think, and it just made me think of perspective, right? So reading 15 books, it was like, meh. But reading 4,553 pages last year, I was like, that's pretty good. So, just a little way to spin it. I feel like that's one of those things you do in college, right? When you have to write a paper and you just like change the font by half a size just to get like that extra page. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. So 4,553 pages, 15 books. And I thought, I'm going to decide which was my favorite. So I tend to switch off between sort of like personal development, spiritual kind of books, and then fiction. And I really enjoy reading historical fiction. That's probably my favorite, and especially if it has to do with witches, anything witchy. I love that stuff too. So one of my favorite authors who writes a lot of this type of fiction is Alice Hoffman. And if you haven't read anything by her, she is actually the author who wrote Practical Magic. So if you've seen that movie or you've probably heard of it, that's her. And her books are really, really well written. And what I really love about her writing is, I mean, she can take a book and literally give you like generations of content. It's amazing how much content she packs into all of her books. So it's just really fascinating stuff, and I love her, and I read a bunch by her in 2024, and it's great that she has a bunch of books because I go through them pretty quickly. So one of her books was my favorite for 2024, and it's this one, The Marriage of Opposites. And it's a historical piece. It actually tells the story, and I mean, this is going back like even well before he was born, but of a famous painter, and it follows his life and sort of expands on what knowledge we actually have of him to be this elaborate story of his life and family and the difficulties they go through. And it's just really, really well done. But what I really like about this book is it really speaks to the idea of fate, or like your divinely intended purpose, right? And the idea that in our human form, we're given the ability to think and feel and, all the things, and we're given free will. So, we have this divinely intended purpose, we have a path, our intuition gives us these nudges on this path, but we have the ability as humans to be like, nope, I'm just going to do something else. And this happens so often. And I see this a lot when I'm working with clients because, we start to talk about intuition and, like, well, what does your intuition say? And oftentimes I get met with an answer of like, well, I don't know. How do I know? How do I know what's my intuition and what's me thinking? And I mean, this is a common theme for a lot of people. So you may not be intentionally choosing free will over intuition, but it happens a lot. And in this book, in different scenarios and storylines and parts of the story, parts of one person's own storyline, it really illustrates how you can choose differently. And eventually you're going to kind of end up back where intuition wanted to take you. So, at least for me, it feels like, okay, well, following my intuition is the shortcut to just get where I need to go instead of using free will and meandering all over the place and having all of these potentially negative experiences, and then sort of ending up at the same spot. So that's something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And I think that's why this book really stood out to me as being my favorite for 2024. Just where am I headed? How much of that is my intuition versus, this overthinking that I try to avoid with my reading or coloring, right? And sometimes it's a balance and it's tricky. And, there's definitely tools and tricks and exercises to help you tap into your intuition. It's a topic I've been playing with for a masterclass, and I have some other classes that I'm going to be offering that I'm really excited about. So I'll definitely be talking more about this, but just wanted to plant the seed and share a little bit about what I'm doing and what I'm reading. And I would love, if you're watching this, anytime you're watching, I would love for you to say hi. But if you're watching this one specifically and would like to share in the comments or send me a message and let me know what your favorite book for 24 was, or maybe even what you're reading right now, I love hearing what other people are reading. And I will share my list of books that I read in 2024. So you can see where my 4,553 pages came from. Till next time.